Your greatest comeback begins at the exact point of your deepest setback, right now, in this very moment. The seeds of your future success are being planted in the soil of your current struggle. What appears to be the end is actually the beginning. What feels like destruction is actually preparation for construction. What looks like a crisis is actually a crossroads leading to your destiny. I want you to understand something powerful today. The universe doesn't take without intention to return. Every loss carries within it the seed of greater gain. The darkness you're experiencing is not the end of your story. It's simply the necessary contrast that will make your coming light appear even brighter. I remember standing at the edge of what felt like total devastation. My plans had crumbled, opportunities had vanished, and relationships I valued had disappeared. I had worked for years building a business venture that collapsed in a matter of weeks. The financial loss was devastating. The relationships that dissolved in the aftermath were even more painful. My reputation, something I had spent decades building, was suddenly questioned. In that moment, standing in the ruins of what I had built, restoration seemed impossible. Perhaps you're standing in that same place right now. Maybe it's a career setback that's left you questioning your value and direction. Maybe it's a relationship breakdown that shattered your sense of trust and belonging. Maybe it's a health challenge that's forced you to redefine your limitations and possibilities. Maybe it's a financial collapse that stripped away your security and confidence. But I'm here to tell you that your current position is not your final destination. It's merely a transition point preparing you for something greater. That devastating business loss forced me to rebuild on a stronger foundation. The shattered relationships made room for authentic connections aligned with my true purpose. The questioned reputation led me to define myself by internal values rather than external. Loss is never the end of your story. It's simply the beginning of a new chapter. The universe operates on principles of balance and restoration. Every system in nature demonstrates this truth. The tide recedes before it returns with greater force. Winter strips the trees bare before spring clothes them with more abundant foliage. The darkest part of the night comes just before the dawn breaks through. What was taken from you was not stolen permanently. It was simply making room for something more aligned with your true purpose and potential. Consider the farmer who understands this principle intuitively. Before planting new crops, the farmer must first disrupt the soil, breaking it up, turning it over, creating what looks like destruction. To the untrained eye, that freshly plowed field looks ruined, but the farmer knows that this apparent destruction is absolutely necessary for new growth. The breaking must precede the blessing. The disruption must come before the harvest. Your life operates on this same principle. The disruption you've experienced, as painful as it may be, is preparing the soil of your life for new growth. The job loss makes room for a more fulfilling career. The relationship ending creates space for connections that truly honor your worth. The financial setback forces you to build on stronger principles of stewardship and value. The question isn't whether restoration is coming. The question is, are you ready for it? Preparation without opportunity leads to frustration. Opportunity without preparation leads to failure. But preparation meeting opportunity, that creates transformation. I've counseled thousands of individuals through their seasons of restoration, and I've observed a consistent pattern. Those who focus exclusively on the loss remain stuck in that loss. Those who focus exclusively on the restoration become frustrated when it doesn't materialize immediately. But those who focus on preparation, becoming the person who can receive and steward the restoration inevitably experience breakthrough. Your restoration doesn't depend on luck, chance, or even the goodness of others. It depends on your readiness to receive what is already earmarked with your name. Everything you need to succeed has already been allocated to you in the universal system. Your job isn't to create it, but to position yourself to receive it. Understand this fundamental truth. Loss is not your enemy. Loss is often the doorway to your destiny. When something is removed from your life, it creates space. Nature abhors a vacuum. That empty space will be filled with something. The question is, will it be filled with something better or something worse? The answer depends entirely on how you respond to the loss. Loss teaches lessons that success never could. Loss reveals weaknesses in your foundation that prosperity would have hidden. Loss tests your character in ways that winning never will. Loss strips away the non-essential and forces you to confront what truly matters. Look at history's greatest achievers. Their stories aren't stories of uninterrupted success. They're stories of devastating losses, followed by remarkable comebacks. Henry Ford failed and went broke 5 times before he succeeded. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her job as a television reporter because she was unfit for TV. J.K. Rowling was a divorced single mother on welfare before Harry Potter brought her success. What made these individuals different wasn't that they avoided loss, it was how they responded to it. They developed what I call restoration consciousness, the mindset that sees every setback as the setup for a comeback. They understood that loss wasn't happening to them. The seeds of your future are buried in the soil of your past. Every experience, especially the painful ones, contains wisdom that will be vital for your next level. Nothing in your life has been wasted. That relationship that ended, it taught you what you truly need in a partner. That business that failed, it showed you what not to do next time. That opportunity that vanished, it wasn't truly aligned with your highest purpose. Let me share a principle that transformed my understanding of loss and restoration. I call it the principle of embedded potential. Within every loss is embedded the potential for something greater. This potential isn't obvious at first. It's like a seed that must be extracted, planted, and nurtured. The extraction process is often painful. It requires honest reflection and the courage to confront uncomfortable truths. But this process is essential for your restoration. I worked with a woman who lost her executive position after 15 years with the same company. She was devastated, not just financially, but emotionally and psychologically. Her identity was deeply intertwined with her professional role. When that role vanished, she felt as though she had vanished too. For months, she struggled with depression and uncertainty. But slowly, through deliberate reflection, she began to extract the embedded potential in her loss. She realized that her executive role, while prestigious, had kept her from developing her true passion for mentoring young professionals. She recognized that the organizational culture, which she had accepted for years, was actually misaligned with her deepest values. She understood that her identity had been dangerously fused with her title rather than her character and contribution. From these insights, she built a consulting practice focused on leadership development for emerging professionals. Within 2 years, her income exceeded her executive salary. More importantly, her sense of purpose and fulfillment expanded exponentially. The loss that initially seemed catastrophic became the catalyst for her greatest contribution. Your story can follow this same pattern, but the transformation hinges on your willingness to extract the wisdom from your loss. You must be willing to ask, what did this experience reveal about my true priorities? What capabilities did it force me to develop? What illusions did it shatter that needed to be shattered? Your job is to extract the wisdom from these experiences without carrying the weight of them. Learn the lesson, release the burden. Take the wisdom, leave the wounds. Harvest the insights, abandon the resentment. This is the alchemy that transforms past pain into future power. Proper reflection is not dwelling on what happened, it's discerning why it happened and what it prepared you for. Ask yourself, what did this experience reveal about my character? What skills did I develop by navigating this challenge? What relationships were strengthened in this fire? What false assumptions were corrected by this reality? The process of extraction requires ruthless honesty. You must be willing to acknowledge where you contributed to your own loss. This isn't about blame, it's about responsibility. Blame looks backward and gets stuck there. Responsibility looks backward just long enough to learn, then turns resolutely toward the future. Your restoration requires a specific mindset. You cannot receive tomorrow's opportunities with yesterday's thinking. The very thinking that led to previous losses must be transformed before you can sustain future gains. Restoration isn't just about recovering what was lost. It's about becoming someone who can maintain what is restored. But this mindset begins with absolute ownership. You must take complete responsibility for your life and circumstances. No blame, no excuses, no justifications. Even when events were clearly beyond your control, your response to those events was entirely within your control. And it's your response, not the event itself, that determines your future. Next, you must develop expectancy. Expectancy is not wishful thinking. It's a settled confidence based on understanding principles. When you plant tomato seeds, you expect tomatoes, not because you're an optimist, but because you understand the principle of seed and harvest. Similarly, when you plant the right actions today, you can expect the right results tomorrow. While you're waiting for visible restoration, you must take invisible preparation. Use this waiting period to develop skills, strengthen character, build relationships, and clarify vision. The waiting period isn't dead time, it's development time. It's not a punishment, it's preparation. Maintain momentum even when results aren't visible. Momentum is created by consistent action in a single direction over time. Don't mistake movement for momentum. Movement is random activity. Momentum is focused progress. Find one area where you can make measurable progress daily and concentrate there until you break through. Restoration rarely announces itself with fanfare. More often, it begins with subtle indicators that most people miss. The job interview that doesn't seem connected to your dream career might be the relationship that leads to your ideal position. The small client that hardly seems worth your time might become your biggest account. The seemingly insignificant introduction might be to your future business partner. These subtle indicators require discernment. Discernment is the ability to recognize the significant within the seemingly insignificant. It's developed through stillness, reflection, and awareness. Take time daily to quiet your mind and tune into the subtle shifts happening around you. Often, the greatest challenges come right before the greatest breakthroughs. This is the principle of acceleration before manifestation. Just as a woman experiences the most intense contractions right before birth, you'll often face the most severe tests right before your breakthrough. Many people give up at this critical juncture, not realizing how close they were to success. I call this the threshold principle. Throughout nature, we observe that crossing from one state to another requires overcoming the maximum resistance at the threshold. Water must reach 212 degrees Fahrenheit before it transforms into steam. A rocket consumes more fuel in the first few minutes of launch, overcoming Earth's gravitational pull, than in the rest of its journey through space. A butterfly must struggle against the cocoon to strengthen its wings enough for flight. If you help by cutting open the cocoon, the butterfly's wings remain too weak and it cannot fly. Your life follows this same pattern. The greatest resistance appears at the threshold of your greatest transformation. I've seen this repeatedly in the lives of successful individuals. The entrepreneur faces the most severe cash flow crisis right before the business breakthrough. The writer encounters the deepest creative block right before the masterpiece emerges. The relationship navigates the most intense conflict right before reaching a new level of intimacy and understanding. I remember working with an athlete who had trained for years for his opportunity to compete at the international level. 2 weeks before the competition, he suffered an injury that threatened to end his dream. The medical advice was clear: withdraw and try again next year. But something within him recognized this as a threshold moment. Instead of withdrawing, he modified his training regimen, focusing on the elements he could still develop while allowing his body to heal. Against all predictions, he not only competed but placed higher than he had ever achieved before. The injury forced him to abandon techniques that were actually limiting his performance, replacing them with approaches that maximized his natural strengths. The apparent setback was actually the catalyst for his breakthrough. Your current challenge may be serving exactly the same purpose. The financial pressure is forcing you to innovate in ways comfort never would. The relationship conflict is surfacing issues that prosperity would have allowed you to ignore. The health challenge is reconnecting you with priorities that success had obscured. These intensified challenges aren't obstacles to your restoration. They're confirmation of it. They're the final preparation, strengthening you to handle the blessing that's about to be released into your life. When challenges intensify, don't retreat, advance. It's often the final test before promotion. Understand that readiness isn't a feeling, it's a state of development. You might not feel ready for the opportunity when it arrives, because that's normal. Readiness isn't about feeling prepared. It's about being prepared through consistent development of your character, competence, and capacity. Readiness means having systems in place before you need them. It means developing disciplines when they're choices before they become necessities. It means building relationships before you need them, contributing before you extract, giving before you receive. The paradox of readiness is that when you're truly ready, the opportunity often feels like it's stretching you beyond your capacity. This is by design. If the opportunity matched your current capacity exactly, it wouldn't expand you. Growth happens in the stretch, in the gap between your current capacity and the opportunity's demands. Readiness gives you a competitive advantage. because most people operate reactively rather than proactively. While others scramble to prepare when opportunity knocks, you'll be opening the door fully prepared to seize it. This proactive posture puts you ahead of 95% of the population who live reactively. More importantly, readiness is magnetic. It attracts opportunity. When you're prepared, opportunities find you. Preparedness creates a resonance that draws the right circumstances, people, and resources toward you. It's not mystical. It's practical. Prepared people are alert, engaged, and connected. They notice opportunities that others miss. The principle is simple but profound. Everything you've lost is being restored, but only to the degree that you're ready to receive it. The restoration will never exceed your readiness. This is why many people experience partial restoration, because they're partially ready. Total restoration requires total readiness. It demands alignment of your mindset, actions, relationships, and character. It requires you to become a person who can not only receive the blessing, but sustain and multiply it. This multiplied restoration operates on the principle of compound interest. Just as money properly invested grows exponentially over time, wisdom properly applied to loss creates exponential returns. Your loss, properly processed, doesn't just restore you to your previous position, it capital puts you far beyond it. This is why people who have experienced profound loss often achieve more than those who haven't. The loss becomes fuel for achievement. The rejection becomes motivation for excellence. The failure becomes education for future success. Your capacity to receive restoration is directly proportional to your capacity to let go of what was lost. Holding on to the past through resentment, regret, or idealization blocks the flow of restoration. You cannot drive forward while staring in the rearview mirror. Release what was to make room for what will be. This principle of release is perhaps the most challenging aspect of the restoration process. We develop attachments not just to people and possessions, but to identities, expectations, and narratives about how our lives should unfold. Releasing these attachments often feels like a form of death, because it is. Something must die for something new to be born. I've worked with business leaders who could not revitalize their organizations because they remained attached to strategies that had worked in the past but were no longer effective. I've counseled individuals who couldn't form healthy new relationships because they remained emotionally tethered to partners who had left years before. I've mentored talented professionals who couldn't advance because they clung to professional identities that no longer served their growth. But the common factor in each case wasn't the external circumstance, but the internal attachment. Restoration was available, but it remained inaccessible because they couldn't release what was lost. Consider the story of a woman I'll call Sarah. Sarah had built her identity around being the perfect mother. Her children were the center of her universe, and she invested everything in their development. When they left for college, she experienced profound loss, not just of their daily presence, but of her primary identity. For months, she struggled with depression and purposelessness. Her restoration began when she finally released her attachment to that specific expression of motherhood. She realized that her children's independence wasn't a rejection of her role, but the fulfillment of it. She began redirecting her nurturing gifts toward mentoring younger mothers in her community. Within a year, she had developed a thriving support network that eventually became a nonprofit organization serving hundreds of families. The key wasn't just finding a new activity, but released her attachment to the specific form her purpose had taken previously. When she released the form, she retained the essence, and that essence found new expanded expression. Your restoration follows this same pattern. You must distinguish between the form of what was lost and the essence of what it provided. The form may be gone permanently, but the essence can find new, often greater expression. The job is gone, but your skills and contribution remain. The relationship has ended, but your capacity for connection continues. The opportunity has vanished, but your readiness for growth persists. This release isn't about forgetting or denying what happened. It's about extracting the value from the experience and then consciously choosing to move forward without the emotional baggage. It's a decision you make moment by moment, day by day, until it becomes your default response. The path of restoration is rarely linear. It's more often a spiral. You revisit similar themes, but at higher levels each time. What looks like repetition is actually progression. You're not going in circles. You're ascending a spiral staircase. Each apparent repetition is actually preparing you for your next level. Your restoration requires patience, but not passivity. There's a profound difference. Patience is active waiting, continuing to take appropriate action while trusting the process. Passivity is resignation, giving up action and responsibility. Your restoration demands your active participation. This participation includes creating before you see evidence. Speak about your future as if it's already happening. Act in alignment with where you're going, not where you are. Make decisions based on your destination, not your current location. This isn't denial. It's faith made visible through action. One of the most powerful ways to prepare for restoration is to help others experience their own. When you assist others in recovering what they've lost, you activate the principle of reciprocity. What you make happen for others, the universe makes happen for you. This isn't manipulation, it's cooperation with a fundamental law of life. Look around you right now. Who needs the wisdom you've gained through your losses? Who could benefit from the insights you've paid such a high price to learn? Become the agent of restoration in their lives, and watch how quickly your own restoration accelerates. Your transition from loss to restoration also requires community. No significant achievement happens in isolation. Identify the relationships that will be essential for your next level and begin cultivating them now. Some relationships are seasonal. They serve a purpose and then naturally conclude. Others are lifelong. They evolve. Be intentional about curating your relational environment. The 5 people you spend the most time with shape your thinking, expectations, and results more than any other external factor. Ensure these relationships are aligned with where you're going, not just where you've been. As your restoration unfolds, maintain perspective through documentation. Keep a record of where you started, the progress you've made, and the insights you've gained. In moments of discouragement, this documentation will remind you of how far you've come and renew your confidence in the process. This documentation isn't just for your encouragement. It's your legacy. Your journey from loss to restoration will become a roadmap for others facing similar challenges. Your story isn't just about you. It's about everyone who will find hope through your example. Ultimately, restoration is not a one-time event. It's a continuous process. Life operates in cycles of loss and restoration, contraction and expansion, challenge and triumph. As you master this rhythm, you'll fear loss less because you understand its purpose and trust the restoration that follows. This mastery creates not just success, but significance. Success is what you achieve. Significance is what you pass on. When your restoration becomes the inspiration and instruction for others' restoration, you've moved from success to significance. Everything you've lost is being restored right now. The only question is whether you're ready to receive it. Not tomorrow, not someday, today, right now. Readiness isn't a future state, it's a present choice. Choose readiness now and watch as doors begin to open that were previously closed to you. Here are 3 immediate actions to accelerate your restoration. First, create a wisdom extraction document. Take your significant losses and write what each one taught you. Focus exclusively on the wisdom gained. What did you learn about yourself? What strengths did you discover? What priorities were clarified? This transforms your losses from liabilities into assets. Second, develop a daily readiness ritual. Spend 15 minutes each morning preparing for opportunities you can't yet see. This might include skill development, relationship building, or mindset conditioning. Preparation precedes opportunity. Your daily investment in readiness creates a magnetic force that attracts restoration. Third, practice strategic forgetting. Identify one attachment to the past that's blocking your movement forward. Create a concrete ritual of release. Write it down and burn the paper. Speak it aloud to a trusted friend or symbolically bury it. Replace that attachment with a clear vision of what you're moving toward. These 3 practices create the internal conditions for external restoration. They align you with the natural flow of loss and restoration, positioning you to receive what's already been allocated to you. Remember, restoration isn't passive. It's an active collaboration between your readiness and the universe's resources. You're not waiting for something to happen to you. You're participating in something happening through you. Your moment of restoration has arrived. Step into it with confidence, clarity, and courage. What was taken from you temporarily will be returned permanently, multiplied and improved, but only if you're ready. And readiness begins with a decision you can make right now. I've witnessed countless individuals transform devastating losses into extraordinary gains. The executive who lost his position and built a more fulfilling enterprise. The parent who lost a child and established a foundation that saved thousands of lives. The entrepreneur who lost everything financially and created a business model that generated 10 times the previous wealth. These aren't exceptional cases. They're expressions of universal principles available to you now. The same forces that transformed their losses into catalysts for growth are operating in your life right now. Your life was designed for cycles of expansion, contraction, and greater expansion. Your capacity was meant to be stretched, tested, and enlarged. Everything you've been through has been preparing you for where you're going. Nothing has been wasted. Every loss contains the seed of greater gain. Every ending creates space for a new beginning. Your restoration starts now, not when circumstances change, not when others acknowledge your worth, but now. Through your decision to align with the natural cycle of loss and restoration, everything you've lost is being restored, multiplied, and improved. Stay ready.